Joe Biden's granddaughter, Naomi Biden, and daughter of Hunter Biden got married over the weekend. And some journalists are big mad over what they perceive to be a limitation of access to the event. This was a discussion recently on The View that caused some controversy. Let's take a listen.
President Biden's granddaughter, Naomi, was married at the White House over the weekend, which spokespeople said was a private event, so the White House press corps were not invited to come. But now they're a little mad now because apparently Vogue magazine was able to stage a pre-wedding photo shoot. And the press corps is upset. They said, well, you know, she's the first presidential granddaughter to marry in the people's house, and they should have access to it, to record it for historical records.
Well, you know, 9 other daughters of presidents have gotten married there. I don't know if they recorded that. And Grover Cleveland himself got married in the White House.
Second run.
I don't know which one.
I learned that
I'm not that intimate with Grover, although I did date him once. So the point is that this is a bunch of baloney. And what they said was, listen, this is a private event. We're giving it to Vogue. You know, that's what they're doing.
It's the girls, isn't it? I thought it was about the bride, and the bride is not a public figure. She's not somebody whose face you know. It was a private affair, and you didn't get to go. And you know, when they want you to write about stuff that they're doing, y'all don't do anything. So maybe this will help, you know, stimulate y'all to write about the stuff that we, the people, actually care about. Yeah. I'm just saying.
So what do you make of this, Robby? You know, journalists have been all over the place, and not necessarily in an ideological way. Some journalists are arguing that this is evidence of the closed nature of the Biden White House. At Brennanator tweeting, if you're wondering why Trump got away with as much as he got away with, the White House press corps considers not being invited to Naomi Biden's wedding a scandal, saying that there's some asymmetry there between how people are being treated. Some, you know, liberals, Charlotte Clymer, saying the Naomi Biden wedding controversy is so damn cringy. Honest to God, I feel secondhand embarrassment for journalists who somehow thought demanding access to her wedding and subsequently complaining about it publicly when denied would make them look reasonable. Yikes. Other people are arguing that because there was a Vogue spread, that basically invited the public in, and because it was at the White House, which is the people's house, that they should have been able to have some access if an elite fashion mag got access. What do you make of all of this?
Yeah, I mean, the at the White House aspect of it does compel me a little bit. Look, I don't think this is the greatest or even a particularly large example of, like, you know, government mistreating or censoring or the media or lack of transparency. I think absolutely people can get a little bit out of hand with this. That said, I still think it's journalists' job to try to get access to I know it's a you can't say it's a private ceremony when it's at the White House. It is their job to try to get access to the goings-on at the White House. I mean, this could be relevant to some inquiry in some way. Hunter Biden being a kind of person of interest. Not that I don't think Naomi Biden, you know, deserves privacy. Sure, she's not a government figure. That's fine. But I don't begrudge journalists trying to get better access to it at all, given where it took place. And I found, you know, Whoopi kind of doing some rah-rah cheering for the administration in that clip, and also then, like, getting mad at journalists for not covering all the good stuff Biden is doing, that's always the weirdest. And you just come out sounding a little bit like propagandistic when you're like, how dare journalists don't cover the good things the government does. That's, for me at least, sorry, Charlotte Clymer, that for me is always the cringiest thing you can do, is be like, oh, why aren't they talking about how good the government is?
Well, that's the Democrats' job, right? And Democrats have been famously bad at selling their own accomplishments to the American public. But look, I would agree that there does seem to be something to the idea that it being at the White House invites some scrutiny, although I obviously don't think that just because you get married at and it should be noted that Naomi Biden and her now husband were living at the White House, I think, for the last few months, while I guess their lease was up and they moved in with Biden. So it was their home. You know, you can have thoughts and feelings about whether or not the White House should be used in that way. But, you know, people move in with their grandparents, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the entire public should be able to have a perspective. But I will say the reaction from the press wasn't just, gosh, I wish I could have this scoop. Gosh, I wish I could have been there to take some pictures or write a story. It got a little histrionic. This is from Ashley Parker. She says, I spent 4 years covering the Trump White House and 2 years covering the Biden White House. What's fascinating is that they both lie, albeit in very different ways. Trump team was shameless, whereas Biden team is too cute by half. And Matt Iglesias quote tweeted this saying, you think this is going to be about the CIA staging a coup or something, but it's actually a complaint that Vogue, rather than the White House press corps, was given access to Naomi Biden's wedding. So it does seem like people have lost their minds a little bit in terms of like the proportionality and the scale of what's happened here.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. They've lost their minds a little bit. Although, again, it's good if the media is going to overdo this one way or the other. It's good to overdo it in the direction of demanding more transparency and kind of being outraged about not getting access to events, right? We don't want them to overdo it in the other way, where they're just kind of like gleefully cheering everything the government does, or being like, oh, it's fine that they're not going to let us in or show us or tell us anything. That's fine. So I'm not like so mad about it, but yeah, I agree with you. I think it was fine to let her have the wedding. I liked Joy Behar stealing one of my favorite anecdotes for the only president to get married in the White House, Grover Cleveland. That was a trivia question I deployed many a time this week.
It's true. I can vouch for that.
Yes, I deployed it on you.
Look, and look, I do think that it's probably the case that Vogue wanted it exclusive, right? So you can question kind of the value of saying, you know, I desire to be on the front of Vogue in my wedding dress, and for that reason, I'm going to sidestep this more kind of egalitarian outlet. I can see why some people might be frustrated with that. I also don't begrudge a young woman in a pretty dress for wanting to be on the cover of Vogue. On that level, she's not a politician. I'm not really invested in her values and morals in that way, and that just seems like, hey, a personal choice that the White House press corps is just going to have to cope through.
They need a strong dose of copium. I agree with you. Prescribing lots of copium. Take it 3 times a day. All right, we'll have more Rising right after this. Stay with us.